Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans. I'm so glad that you joined me today. I have a big show for you today. I'm going to be talking about the moral degeneration that we see all around us. One of the major signs of the end times. I'm talking about Uvalde, the shooting, and other things that are happening, very troubling things that are happening around our country. I'll also be answering some of your questions, some great questions that you guys ask. And I want to begin by just saying we have our conference coming up September 17th. This is going to be at Fellowship Church. Pastor Ed Young, dear man, wonderful pastor and preacher. And we have a great lineup of speakers all day long. I'll be going first and last that day, speaking twice. I'm also speaking the next morning at Fellowship Church on the end times. So if you're going to be here or you're flying in, you can stay over and come on Sunday morning and get more on the end times. But it's myself, it's going to be Billy Crone, Pastor Billy Crone. He's been on the show. Many of you have seen him. Also, we have Greg Laurie, and Greg is a contributor here on endtimes.com, a phenomenal speaker, author, many books he's written on the end times, and he'll be with us, along with Dr. Mark Hitchcock, who's also one of the contributors here on endtimes.com, filled in for me last week. Phenomenal teacher. He's written over 30 books on the end times. He is a wealth of information, and Rabbi Jonathan Cahn is also going to be with us. Now, he is the most profound prophet, and that's what I'm going to call him, of our generation that I've ever seen before in my life. He's a dear friend of mine. I went back 20 years ago or 15 years ago and interviewed him in New York City after 9/11 when he wrote his book, The Harbinger, and he has a special message for us. But this is going to be a great lineup of speakers. As subscribers to endtimes.com, you get a 50% discount. So it's $99 to come to the conference, but it's half that price for subscribers. Also, it's $49 for the video feed. And so both of those are half price for all of our subscribers. You can buy as many tickets as you want. And so if you want to bring your family, friends, neighbors, a group from your church, buy as many tickets as you want. It's one of the benefits of being a subscriber. And be sure and subscribe early. Now, this is the first time we're offering this to everybody. We're opening this up. We've given the subscribers 2 weeks, and many of you have signed up. Many of you have signed up to come physically and also for the stream, but this is the first time we're opening up to everyone. So be sure and go on conference.endtimes.com. That's conference.endtimes.com, and you can sign up there. We'd love to have you be a part of the conferences coming up. But we're all sickened by what's happened in Uvalde, and just by the moral degeneration of what's happening around us. And I want to talk about this because it's one of the major signs of the end times. And this is an example. I'm going to talk about Uvalde here in just a little bit in the subscriber portion, but I've got an article here from Yahoo News. This was May the 16th. And the headline of this article says, Florida Church hosting event for kids featuring drag show and forbidden queer literature. That's the title of this. It's May 16th. A local nonprofit organization is hosting an event for LGBTQ youth in Naples, Florida on Saturday that will feature a drag show at the church. The inaugural Youth Pride Conference, which is being hosted by GLSEN Collier, will take place May 21st. It already took place at Naples United Church of Christ, and is intended for LGBTQ youth seeking to explore LGBTQ-related issues they face today, according to the events page. Youth aged 12 to 18 are invited to attend the all-day event, which the organizer boasts will include free breakfast and lunch, as well as a drag show from some of our local drag queens. So this is at a church. I mean, it's bad enough for this is happening, but it's happening at a church, United Church of Christ. And I've told you before about the United Church of Christ, very anti-Semitic, have many, many problems. But they're now hosting this, trying to naturalize not just the LGBTQ, lifestyle, but the drag queens and all of that. And so it's incredible. But this is one of the major signs of how we know that we're living in the end times. And by the way, we're living in the most immoral world that we've ever seen in the history of the world. There has never been a world that has flooded with pornography, flooded with immorality, and has gone to the level of not just mass abortions, 62 million abortions in America, but now it's not safe to send your children to many schools in America because they're going to try to talk them into the fact that they're not the gender that they are, or they're going to try to talk them into something, in many cases, behind the parents' back and without their knowledge. So we're seeing a very, very immoral world. And this has been going on now. The Bible, I'm going to talk to you about what the Bible says about the times that we're living in. But here's what the Bible prophecy says about the end times. So this is Jesus in Luke 17, and he says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will also be in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. So Jesus is saying, just like the days of Noah, just like the days of Lot, it's going to be just like that when Jesus returns. Well, here are 4 parallels between the days of Noah and Lot and the days that we're living in now. And the first is a business as usual attitude of sinners. Buying, selling, marrying, giving in marriage. And this is why I don't believe that Jesus will come at the end of the tribulation. And some people teach that very, very strongly, that they believe that believers are going to go through the tribulation. There will not be a business as usual attitude when 3/4 of the world's population has been killed and the world is a smoldering ruin at the end of the tribulation. The second parallel is a refusal of sinners to listen to the warnings of the righteous. I'm a preacher. There are many preachers around the world, many churches telling the truth, and many people refusing, many people mocking, which is also a sign of the end times, many people mocking us and mocking Christians for the way they believe. Noah and Lot did not have one convert, either of them. In fact, Lot lost his wife. She turned back and became a pillar of salt on the way out of Sodom and Gomorrah. And so just the world that we're living in and just their mockery of Christianity, that is a sign of the times. The third parallel is a sudden removal of the righteous from among the wicked. Noah got on the ark. God lifted him above the flood the way he will lift us up above the tribulation. And then, of course, Lot went out of Sodom and Gomorrah. The angels that came in to take Lot and his family out said, we can't judge this place until you're gone and you have arrived safely at your destination. Again, that's why I don't believe that we're going to go through the tribulation. We are not destined for wrath. The fourth parallel is cataclysmic judgment. The tribulation will be cataclysmic judgment upon the world. Sodom and Gomorrah, 100% death. In the case of the flood, 100% death. It was a cataclysmic judgment that's going to happen when the tribulation, when the rapture happens and the tribulation comes to the world. This is what Genesis says. When Jesus says it'll be like the days of Noah and the days of Lot, this is what the book of Genesis says about the times of Noah. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Listen to that. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Now, it said the world was corrupt, and that is the Hebrew word shakath. It means evil, filthy, and immoral. The world was full of immorality, filth, and violence. Sounds like the world we're living in today. And remember, Jesus said, as it was then, it will be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. This is Lot's world, according to 2 Peter chapter 2. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah, one of 8 people, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood on the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them to destruction, making them an example to those afterward who would live ungodly, and delivered righteous Lot, who is oppressed by the filthy conduct of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them tormented his righteous soul from day to day by seeing and hearing their lawless deeds. Then the Lord knows how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who walk according to the flesh in the lust of uncleanness and despise authority. They are presumptuous and self-willed. And again, Peter uses the word here filthy, and it is the Greek word asolgeia. It means licentious, sexually immoral, and an insatiable desire for pleasure, just living in lust and hedonism. And they're ungodly. They have no fear of God. And so Sodom and Gomorrah were known for rampant homosexuality. That's where the word Sodom comes from. And the men of the city were so evil that they tried to force themselves on the angels who came to deliver Lot and his family. And so here it is now a scripture, a prophecy from the Apostle Paul, graphic prophecy from the Apostle Paul, warning about dangerous days that will come in the end times because there will be such moral degeneration. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3. But know this, in the last days, perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power, and from such people turn away. And so Paul is describing the wholesale deconstruction of morality in the end times. And this is being fulfilled right before our eyes. And I'm saying this was not true when I was a child. I'm 68 years old. I was born in 1953. And I'm telling you, it was a different world. You just assumed everybody was a Christian. You just assumed all your teachers were Christians. I went to a school, 10 Commandments on the wall. There was a prayer that was prayed in the name of Jesus every single day I was in public school, from the time I was in first grade till the time that I graduated. And so it was just a different society. There were problems, but nothing like what we see happening today. And especially in the last 20 years, I look back on the beginning of the internet, and there was problems before that, but there has been just this rapid disintegration that has happened since the internet was invented. And a lot of this kind of behavior is promoted through social media and the internet and things like that. So this prophecy from 2 Timothy from the Apostle Paul gives 19 different specific measurements of rejection of biblical morality. 19. When he says lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, 19 different descriptions of the immorality in the end times, which every single one of them are true in our time. And you say, well, why would he give so many? Because immorality isn't just about sex. It is about our whole lives. Sexuality is just one part of immorality, but also lying and stealing and violence and corruption and selfishness and all those kinds of things. And so immorality is like a cancer that spreads. Once you get a little bit of it, it's like leaven. It spreads everywhere. The second reason that he gives so many is it explains why God hates immorality and why he judges it so severely. Let me say this. The reason that God hates immorality is because it damages people. God loves people. God isn't some ogre that just sits up in heaven and doesn't want us to have any fun. Morals protect. If you don't understand why morals are there, morals protect. If you brought your children to me and you said, Jimmy, we've had an emergency, could you take care of our kids for a while we take care of this emergency? And I said, sure. Well, if I'm a moral person, your kids are safe. I mean, when you get back a week from now or a year from now, your kids are going to be as good or better than when you left them with me. But if I'm immoral, they're not safe. Morals protect. A moral society is a safe society. And when we rejected the Bible many years ago, when our society began to reject the 10 Commandments and prayer in school and legalize abortion, all those kinds of things, and we rejected the morality of the Bible, the Judeo-Christian ethic immorality that made our nation great, look what happened. There has never been a great immoral society. Rome, Greece, Egypt, Babylon, you go back in world history, they began as moral societies that become great and they fall from within because they no longer have the protection of morals. And our founding fathers warned us that the Constitution of the United States was designed for a moral and godly people. And it was wholly inadequate for the government of any other. And that's why we see right now, when people are unrestrained in their hearts, you can't restrain them any other way. And we're seeing now, inner city Chicago, the Los Angeles, San Francisco, many places in America, they just can't handle the crime and the immorality because it's people's hearts. And they can't hire enough police officers to do that. Another reason that Paul lists so many is it very specifically describes the world of the end times and why it will be such a dangerous place. Paul says, beware, in the end times, it will be a dangerous place to live. And he goes into all the descriptions there. Every generation has had immorality. Jesus' generation had immorality. The Noah and Lot, they had immorality. Not the way we have immorality today. It is worldwide. Children, if they have a cell phone, they can get it. They can use Bible apps to get into immorality. It is everywhere. It has covered the earth, and it has gone to a level, again, that you have young men walking into schools and shooting little children, like Sandy Hook and like in Uvalde this week. Another reason that the Apostle Paul used 19 different descriptions is it describes the perverted value system of the end times. It's all societies have values, and so it's their culture. And so in America today, our culture has degenerated, and we are now celebrating things that 30 years ago we forbid. And so, and what's happening right now with little children going to school and being convinced now that they're of a different gender. And I'm going to read an article here in just a little bit that talks about preschoolers and how preschoolers are now being indoctrinated into the woke culture. And so when you take everything that the Apostle Paul said, in all 19 of those things, they fall into 4 categories. And so here are the 4 categories of the end times moral degeneration. One is exaltation of self and narcissism. They will be lovers of themselves. I was watching football as a boy, and it was the Dallas Cowboys. I've been a lifelong Dallas Cowboys fan. I was watching football, and football players did not strut or celebrate after they made a play. They wouldn't let you do that. And the first time I ever saw a football player pound their chest or celebrate, I believe it was Hollywood Henderson was in a football game, and Tom Landry pulled him out of the game because he considered that poor sportsmanship. And so, of course, today, everyone loves themselves. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with celebrating if you're a football player. I'm just saying it was a different society, and people, they weren't as narcissistic. You weren't allowed to sit and take selfies of yourself all day long and send them to all your friends. It's not about yourself. And so lovers of self, here's what Paul says, lovers of self, boasters, proud, haughty, headstrong. This is the first thing that he says. Look at our society today. And the narcissism, the exaltation of self. Here's the second thing Paul says, is the rejection of authority. He said, disobedience to parents, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And when it's the word power there is the word dunamis, it means morality. It can mean spiritual power. It also means morality. They have a form of godliness, but they deny the morality of that godliness. And so many people today will, they say they believe in God, and they have a form of godliness, but they live very immoral lives. That's what that means. The third category would be rejection of moral standards. He says unholy, without self-control, and despisers of good. Now, I spoke in a church service one day, and a boy band was in the audience. They're still famous. Very, very famous boy band was in the audience. And they came up to me before I preached, and they said, Jimmy, if you hear girls screaming, it's not about you. And I kind of knew that anyway, and because they were very, very famous. Now, they had taken purity rings, and this was very, very public. They had taken purity rings, and with their mom and dad, they had agreed they wouldn't have sex till they got married. They were vilified in the media. I mean, they were roasted in the media because they wanted to be pure before they got married. Okay, that's despisers of good. What once was a standard that people admired is now something that people slam as being idiotic. But nothing has changed with God. The thing about God, biblical morality is it doesn't change. It is a hard and fast standard that we live by. The number 4 category is disloyal, unloving, and verbally vicious, if that doesn't sound familiar. Paul says unloving, irreconcilable, unforgiving, blasphemers, slanderers, brutal, traitors, unthankful. The word unloving there is astorgeia, the Greek word. It means not even loving your family. When I was a young pastor, it was unheard of for a mother to leave her kids. I had never heard of it. I was a pastor of a very large church. And so you would see men sometimes leave their families, but not women. After I had pastored for 10 or 20 years, more and more parents killing their children, children killing their parents, parents preying on their children. That's what that means. It means you don't even have a normal love for your family anymore. And this is what we see today. The young man in Uvalde shot his grandmother in the face before he went and shot those kids. It's incredible. And so this is why God hates the immorality, and this is why there is such a horrific judgment that came on the world of Noah, of Lot, and is about to come on our world. Now, if you take all 4 of the categories that the Apostle Paul was talking about, describing the moral degeneration of the end times, and you flip it, here's what it means. Number 1 is exaltation of God over self. If you want to make this thing right and flip this thing over, rather than being narcissistic and arrogant, it means we humble ourselves before God. That's what we should be doing. That's what Christians should be doing. We shouldn't be like the world. We shouldn't be full of ourselves. And this is the whole issue of worship and focusing our lives on God. It's not about me. It wasn't about me. It's not about me. It never will be about me. It is about Jesus. When we go to heaven for all of eternity, we will worship Jesus Christ and not ourselves. The number 2 category, if you flip these things around, is submission to God's authority and to His delegated human authority. I submit my life to God. It's not about what I can do. It's about what I should do. I'm under God's authority. And it says they're rebellious to parents. They're disobedient to parents. And so if I'm a child, I should be submitted to my parents. I'm submitted to my boss at work. I'm submitted to the governing authorities. I have an attitude of submission. We now have Antifa, and we have these groups that are completely against all forms of authority. And this is growing in our society. Number 3 standard or category would be acceptance of absolute moral standards of the Bible, rather than being immoral and haters of good. We love good. And the fourth category is loving others loyally and sacrificially, rather than being brutal, unforgiving, irreconcilable, and things like this. This is how America began. Those were the standards that made America great. And so America, and let me just say this, this will not get better. Okay. As believers, we can be the salt and light of the world, but we know according to the words of Jesus that when He returns, it's going to be like Noah and it's going to be like Lot. He told us exactly what the world is going to be like, and that's why Jesus can come at any time. And I'm saying, for me personally, I want Jesus to come now. There's nothing in this life. All my family's going with me. All the people I care about are going with me. And this world is a rotten, evil place. And so again, it says that Lot's righteous soul was vexed day after day as he had to sit there and watch what those people were doing. And I know that that's the way many of you feel. That's the way I feel. When you see what's happening in Uvalde, when you see the things that are happening in the world right now, it just breaks your heart and it vexes your soul. And you say, how long can this go on? Well, it can go on until the time that the rapture happens, and that will happen. The world is not going to be a better place. I hope a lot of people get saved, and that's the job of the church, is for us to be salt and light in the world and for us to preach the gospel. And so that has to keep going on. And so here's what Jesus told us in Matthew 5. He said, you're the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how can it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So Jesus is calling us to be the light and salt, and that's what we have to do in the days that we're living in. Be around other believers. Don't let your closest fellowship be with unbelievers. That's very important for your kids, and it's never been as important for us and our children to be in church. We need to be around other believers. We need the encouragement of church. And so my encouragement, and we're living in a horrifically immoral time. It's just heartbreaking to watch what's going on in the world around us. But Jesus says we have a job to do in this world of darkness, in this world of, Jesus said we're salt. Salt preserves. And our responsibility is to preserve as much as we can, to witness to other people, to pray for other people, to preserve as much as we can. And light brings revelation in darkness. It brings understanding. We're to be people of light and people of salt, and we're going to do that until Jesus comes. And I believe, you've heard me say this 100 times, Jesus is coming very, very soon. And the world we see around us of immorality and violence, it's announcing the return of Jesus Christ. And I pray He comes very soon. Now, I want to talk about some things that are in the news. Now, I want to talk about Uvalde for just a minute here. It's heartbreaking beyond belief. Sandy Hook was just, a gut punch for the entire nation. Shocking that anyone could be capable of shooting that many little children, innocent little children, walking into a school and doing that. And I just want to talk about, now we have Uvalde, which, there was obviously a problem with the police response. That's one of the problems. But we have many homes today that don't have fathers in them. And one of the things that the police say and the FBI say when they go and investigate these shootings is these are loners. These are kids by themselves or maybe one other with them, but they're loners and they don't have fathers, or they don't have a relationship with their fathers. So there's the God problem, and that is they're void of Jesus. They don't have God in their hearts. There's a home problem. And as a nation, we will not deal with this. I was watching the news the other night, and they were interviewing someone about the shooting in Uvalde, and they began to talk about the fatherless homes, and the host shut them off. It's just like, we can't solve that problem. It's interesting. The last verse in the Old Testament, I will send Elijah the prophet to turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the land with a curse. Okay, last verse there in Malachi. And I'm going to turn the hearts to the fathers and the heart of the fathers to the children, children to the fathers, lest you're cursed. And we have the curse of fatherlessness in America right now, broken homes, broken marriages, and many children that don't even know their fathers. And this is creating incredible woundedness and emptiness and anger in these kids, so much so that they get rifles. And the other problem that we have is violent entertainment. Is you have the video games that are violent, where young people sit and practice shooting, very realistic, shooting people all day long and losing the sensitivity to that. It just becomes matter of fact. And they were saying of the shooter in Uvalde that he just went in there and said, this is going to be, you're about to die, and started shooting people, no emotion whatsoever. And so we have to keep praying for revival in America, because only Jesus Christ can solve the problems in America. I pray for good laws, for good government, and all those things. Bottom line, a man or a political party or another law is not going to change anything significantly. It will be Jesus Christ and revival. We need Jesus in our society, and we need to continue to pray for there to be a revival of marriage and fathers' hearts to be turned to their children. It's a hard issue. And so again, let's pray that God will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children. That will solve the problems in our society. And that's the real issue here. But it is heart-wrenching just to see what's happened in Uvalde. Now, this is an article from Fox News. Right after the shooting in Uvalde, this is the headline. This is May the 29th, John Brown, Florida, 10-year-old boy arrested for alleged text-threatening mass shooting. 10-year-old boy, so this is a fifth grader. It says a 10-year-old fifth grade Florida boy was arrested Saturday and charged with making a written threat to conduct a mass shooting, according to police. When the juvenile suspect, a student at Patriot Elementary School in Cape Coral, Florida, allegedly sent the threatening text, the school threat enforcement team was immediately notified and began analytic research, police said. The Youth Services Criminal Investigation Division assumed the case due to the age of the child. Police arrested the boy after detectives interviewed him and determined probable cause for the arrest of a 10-year-old. And again, I want to say, not knowing all of the details about this 10-year-old boy, I know he has home problems. He's probably been exposed to violent entertainment and video games and things like that. And so it's the same thing, but a 10-year-old. It's getting younger and younger, and it's getting more widespread. And so, again, we need to be praying. We're thankful that school is over for most school districts, but when school resumes in the fall, we have to pray that God will do a work in the hearts of our nation, the hearts of fathers, and in the hearts of children, and that this can come to an end. This is another article here. I'm talking about moral degeneration in our society. North Carolina preschool uses LGBT flashcards depicting a pregnant man to teach kids color. This is Fox News, May 29th. Michael Lee wrote this. North Carolina preschool uses LGBT flashcards depicting a pregnant man to teach kids color. This is the article. A North Carolina preschool used flashcards featuring LGBTQ themes to teach kids colors, including one card depicting a pregnant man. Schools should only be using age-appropriate materials, and these flashcards do not meet that standard for a preschool classroom. Republican State Representative Aaron Perry said in a statement after being alerted to the cards by a constituent, according to North Carolina Speaker of the House Tim Moore. Perry said a concerned constituent emailed her about the cards that were being used to teach preschoolers colors at Ballantine Elementary School in Wake County, North Carolina. Perry then contacted the principal of the elementary school in an attempt to verify the use of the cards in the class, with the principal taking swift action to investigate the constituent's claim. the principal was able to locate the cards in the preschool classroom and verify with the teacher that these had been used to teach colors. Listen, which the principal said was approved curriculum at the school. They weren't breaking the rules. These were the rules. The principal took possession of the cards and alerted the district superintendent and human resources about the incident, which she said she was unaware of until being alerted to the situation by Perry. I am grateful that a concerned constituent reached out and that this issue is being addressed in a swift and professional manner by Ballantine Elementary School. Perry said, the incident comes amid an effort in the North Carolina General Assembly to pass legislation aimed at giving parents more control over what their children are taught, including giving them the option to opt out of what they consider age-inappropriate classroom materials. So younger and younger, now they're trying to get them when they're in preschool. And so this is a national effort. One of my dear friends who is a pastor is trying to confront the local school boards. Now, this is one of the most conservative areas in the United States. And the school district is using Lady Gaga material to teach sexuality in the schools. And when he confronted them, they became angry. And so what they're doing is they're trying to get as many people elected to the school board as they can to get rid of these liberal school boards. But it's amazing how good of a job the progressives have done at getting this, race, the critical race theory, and also the gender and sexuality stuff all the way down into the elementary schools, now in preschool and things like that. And the answer is parents. And there have been parents attending these school board meetings around the country being arrested, being shut down and told that they don't have a voice. And there have been governors across the United States saying that parents have no say in what their children are being taught. And so we have a world today that when there have been, by the way, the school shooting in Uvalde, it was the 213th mass shooting this year in America, and it's the 30th school shooting. So you send your kids to school, now they're in danger of being shot, or as a kindergartner or a preschool or an elementary is being taught that they're not the right gender, that gender is fluid and gender is your choice. And Genesis 1 says God made them male and God made them female, and there's a period at the end of that sentence. Male or female. God decides our sexuality and we are not God, and we cannot decide our sexuality. And when they confuse those little kids can't buy a puppy on their own. They can't do anything on their own. And now, if what they say is, the progressives say, well, they have wisdom. They know who they are. They don't know anything. Bible says foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. If they're going to do something that crazy, wait until they're adults and they can make that decision on their own. Their brains are forming. They are forming. They don't need to be taught this nonsense. And the answer is parents getting mad and parents going to schools and parents demanding that they not teach this to our children of any age. We have every right to speak into it. We pay taxes. They're there because of us. And it's the parent that knows more about the child, not the teacher. And so we need to go, and there's some great school districts in America, but you need to know what your children are being taught. And in some cases, they're teaching this and they're not telling the parents about it. And that's what happened in this case. It took a constituent letting a state representative know, and thank God for this principal and thank God for this state representative. They did a good job. When the school found out about it, they did everything they could to stop it. And they're continuing in North Carolina to try to change laws. We need to vote. We need to know what's going on in our schools. We need to challenge them whenever they're teaching something that we don't agree with. And we need to vote, and vote your morals. And I think I said this last time I was on here. I don't care if a politician promises me $1 trillion. Money can't solve our problems. I don't vote money, I vote morals. I vote my Christian beliefs. And I want to know what my representatives believe about sexuality, about teaching little kids about gender and things like that, about critical race theory and all this stuff. It matters. I don't want my children being indoctrinated when I send them to school. I want them to be educated according to the values that I have. And so this is so important for us to understand in this generation. I don't know, I'm preaching to the choir for the most part. And so we need to be people of the Word, salt and light. And part of that means we're trying to preserve the school, the educational system of America, where we can send our kids and grandkids there and not have to be worried about it. So let me answer now some of the questions that you guys have sent in. Great, super questions. This is from Becky. Becky says, I want to bless Israel. Can you give us specific ways to do this? Yeah. Daystar.com, my friends at Daystar Television Network, the Lamb family, Joni Lamb and her family. Everything you give to Israel, you can go on daystar.com and give to Israel. 100% of it goes to Israel. They give millions of dollars a year to Israel. I mean, they build hospitals. They give equipment to the military. They do all kinds of stuff to Israel, which is just incredible. 100%, no administrative cost comes out of that. Another ministry that I really love is Jonathan Burness, a friend of mine. Jewish Voice is his ministry. And they have Jewish outreaches, some of the most impoverished Jewish areas of the world. Jewish Voice. Mark Hitchcock was talking about that will be under the Antichrist. He mentioned the Western countries, that the Antichrist will come from this federation of countries. Now, Daniel, in Daniel chapter 2, the King Nebuchadnezzar had a vision, and Daniel interpreted the vision. And it was the head of gold, the chest and arms of silver, the waist of bronze, and then the legs of iron, and the feet that were iron mixed with clay. This is talking about 5 world kingdoms. His kingdom, Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, was the head of gold. The Medo-Persian Empire was the chest of silver and the arms of silver. The Greek Empire, under Alexander the Great, was the third great empire of the world, which was the waist of bronze. The Roman Empire, by the way, the Roman Empire divided into 2. It was the 2 legs of iron. Then the feet and the 10 toes of iron mixed with clay, that's the Antichrist kingdom of the end times, where the 10 nations come from. Interesting, it gets less precious. It starts with gold, then silver, then bronze, then iron. It gets less precious with every kingdom and harder with every kingdom. Silver's harder than gold. Bronze is harder than silver. Iron is harder than bronze. And so as the kingdoms progress, they'll get more evil. And the Roman Empire was the most evil empire in the history of the world. But the Antichrist Empire with the 10 toes, that's going to be the most evil empire of all. This is Daniel 7. This is another revelation of the 10. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little horn, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there, in this horn, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. So there are 10 nations. This is the old Holy Roman Empire. We know that because in Daniel 9, Gabriel said to Daniel, the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The city and the sanctuary were destroyed in AD 70 by the Roman general Titus. So we know it's Rome. The Antichrist has to arise out of the old Holy Roman Empire, which included much of the Middle East and Northern Africa. It's not just European. And we have to remember that. So one of the names for the Antichrist is the little horn. Right here. He's going to overthrow 3 of the 10 kings, and he is going to rule them. Revelation 13. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his head a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. 7 heads and 10 horns. And so there will be 10 kingdoms that the Antichrist rules over. Now we don't know who they are. We know that he is going to come out of a revived Roman Empire, and we believe that will be a Western alliance between the Antichrist and those 10 kings. Now this is Revelation 17. Now this is Babylon the Great, the harlot, and this is the judgment. This is Revelation 17. The 10 horns which you saw, because the harlot was riding the beast. The harlot was riding the Antichrist. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. And so the beast is the Antichrist. The woman is the harlot. Now, many people believe that's the Catholic Church, or the Pope, is because of the descriptions given there. Okay, and so, but the harlot rides the beast, and there's 10 kings that give their authority over to the Antichrist. It says for an hour, for a very short period of time. And by the way, they're there at the end of the tribulation warring against Jesus, the Lamb, but he overcomes them. So we don't know exactly who the 10 are, but probably they're in the European area, the old Holy Roman area, and they will give their authority to the beast for 1 hour. So, Justin, the Bible talks about the tribulation as wrath. Could you please share the differences between pre-trib and pre-wrath? Yeah. So, Justin, there are people, pre-trib just means Jesus is going to come and rapture us before the tribulation, and so we're completely spared of the entire tribulation. There are other people who say pre-wrath, and that is, Jesus said that the last half of the tribulation, this is Matthew 24, would be the worst time in human history. There's nothing ever like it before it or after. And so that's called the Great Tribulation. Jesus is the one who coined the term Great Tribulation. Okay, so then they say, okay, well that's when the wrath starts. Okay, when the Antichrist, the abomination of desolation takes place, the Antichrist proclaims himself God, that's where the wrath starts. Okay, so they believe in the pre-wrath rapture that will come around the first half, or will come at halfway point in the tribulation. Here's the problem that I have with that, Justin. That is, Revelation chapter 6 is where the tribulation begins. There are the seal judgments first, 7 seal judgments, 7 trumpet judgments, and 7 bowl judgments. They come in that order. The seal judgments begin, the white horse comes out, and that's the Antichrist. He comes on the scene as a peacemaker. That's the first seal. The second seal is the black horse is released. And, the red horse is released, and peace is taken from the earth. The third seal that is broken is the black horse is released, and it takes a day's wage to buy food for that day. A quart of wheat or 3 quarts of barley. It takes a whole day's wage. So starvation and famine. The fourth horse is released as the ashen horse or the pale horse, and 1/4 of mankind is killed. Those are the first 4 judgments of the tribulation that happen at the beginning of the tribulation. That sounds like wrath to me. That's 1.7 billion people are going to be killed in those first 4. That doesn't include taking peace from the earth and starvation. And so anyone who believes there's no part of the tribulation that isn't wrath. And by the way, in Revelation 6, it says the great men, the rich men, the free, the poor, they hid in the caves of the rocks, and they said, fall on us, for the wrath of the Lamb has come, and who is able to stand? That's Revelation chapter 6. The tribulation chapters of Revelation are 6 through 18. Revelation 6 declares the wrath of the Lamb has come. So I just absolutely do not believe in a pre-wrath rapture. I do believe in a pre-wrath rapture. It'll come before the tribulation. It comes when Jesus raptures the church. This is Dan. Who do you think the 2 witnesses of Revelation are? I think it's Enoch and Elijah. That's my personal opinion. There are 2 men in the Old Testament that didn't die. Some people believe it's Moses and Elijah. It could be. They were on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus. Moses died. And the Antichrist is going to kill the 2 witnesses. Revelation 11 tells us in the middle of the tribulation, the Antichrist is going to kill them. They're going to lay their bodies in the streets for 3.5 days. And so